today we're going to be working on Computer Science Discoveries, Unit 3, Interactive Animations and Games. And we're going to be working on Lesson 6, which has to deal with random numbers. All right. If we look at Task 1, we're going to see that the new code that we will learn is a random number. The random number is going to give us the ability to randomly place our items around the screen. So every time that you restart, your item will be placed randomly around the screen, depending on the parameters that you give it. All right, so here in Task 2, it says you have a new block in the math drawer called random number. So right here, it says math, and that's random number. If you make your drawings with random numbers, it will look a little bit different every time you run your program. You can learn about the block by hovering over it in the toolbox and choosing See Examples. So basically, if I hover over this, I can see what random number means a little bit more. And then if I click here, I'm going to be able to see some examples. And you might find that helpful. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the background here is tomato, and then we're creating an ellipse that is going to be orange. So when I press run, I can see that this background is, it's called tomato. It's some sort of a red-orange color, and I'm filling an ellipse orange. If I take a look at what each of these spaces indicate in the ellipse, I see that X, Y, that's the position. That's the ellipse's X position and the ellipse's Y position. And then I have WH. W is for the width and H is for height. So this is going to stay at 50-50. So it's 50 pixels wide and 50 pixels tall. So if I would find this spot and this spot and measure the distance, it would be 50. This spot to this spot, measure the distance, it would be 50. And now I'm looking at the X and Y position. The X position has a random number of 0 to 400. So on the X, it can go anywhere from 0 all the way to 400. On the Y, it needs to stay at 200. So the Y is up, down, and it's going to stay at 200. So with that being said, this orange ellipse is going to stay on this line, but it can go anywhere, left, right. So I see that it's staying on that line, and it's going anywhere, left, right. If I changed this and put this random number in the Y position, and I made the X position 200, that means it's going to do the same thing. It's just going to be staying on this line up and down and moving anywhere from top to bottom. If I wanted it to be randomly placed, let's say I want to go back to the XY being the random number, and I want this orange dot to go anywhere kind of in here, but not go up high, kind of stay in here. I could also add a random number over here, and I could say, all right, I want that to be between, this is 150, yep, this is 150, and then this is 250. So I want my random number to be anywhere between 150 and 250. So it's not going above or below that line. If this was, let's say that this was a sun and we wanted it to be randomly up here, I might want it to be anywhere from 0 to 100. So those are different ways that you can play with the random number. All right, so here's the same sum from last time. Right now, only the x coordinate is random, but you can make the y coordinate random too. I showed you that in the last example. So they're asking us to do this. Use the random number for the ellipse's y perimeter so that the circle is drawn in a random y position too. As long as your circle is appearing at random x and y positions, you can move on. So we're just going to put this random number here in the second position, because if we look back, we know that the first blank here is the x position, the second blank is the y, and then it's the width and then the height. So I'm going to just do it anywhere from 0 to 400. And it just keeps moving wherever it wants, anywhere around that screen. And I showed you in the last example, if you just wanted it concentrated at the top or in the middle, I showed you how to handle it. All right. So now this is saying variables and random numbers. Variables can be assigned a random number too. This lets you save a single random value, so you can use it as many times as you want in the program. Assign a random number to the variable I size, so the I's automatically change every time that you run the program. And it says, remember, the left and right eyes should always match each other. So if you remember in lesson 5, I believe it was, I was very picky about making sure that you had eye size in for both of these, because I wanted to make sure that you were using the variable. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put a random number in for that eye size. I'm going to make the eyes, they can be as small as 10, or they can both be as big as, let's say, 100. So now it's just making them a random size. Sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small. So that's one of the purposes of using a variable like eye size, and now you have a random number assigned to it, so they're both going to be identical. And I've called for the eye size down here in lines 12 and 13. So that's that variable eye size. Right here is where the variable eye size is. They're both going to be the same because it's whatever random number that the program has chosen. All right. Changing variable values. These two flowers use a single variable to store their petal size, but the value stored in the variable changes in the middle of the program. So we have petal size is 30, and then we have petal size is 60. So they want us to run the program several times to see how it works. And then they want us to discuss it with your partner, and then they want us to change the program so that the flowers have random petal sizes as in the image. So the petals are the purple parts, and let's see what happens. All right, so it looks like we've got this petal size is 60, and that's for this this particular petal, or this particular flower, which is this one down here. I can tell because the ellipse is at 275, 300, 325, 300. All of the things that are in this area on the Y and in this area on the X are down here. So I know that this is my lower petal. I also see the petal size is listed as 60, which is bigger than this petal size, which is listed as 30. This is for the upper flower. So what they want us to do is they want us to have the petals be random, but the petals are going to be two different random things. So I'm going to make these random, and I could make them anywhere from, let's say, 20 to 60 is probably as big as you'd want it to be. This shows you, this bottom one shows you what 60 looks like. And let's do the same here. So 20 and 60. So now every time I press it, they're going to be different. The petal sizes on each of the flowers are going to be the same, but it's going to be random. The reason that works is because we've started now. So right here, you're assigning this is the variable, and then this is for this particular petal, and this is for this particular petal. So that's why that works, to have this random number assigned down here and this random number assigned up here. All right, so at this point, you're going to do some practice with random numbers. You can modify the planets or do this debug. So you need to do at least one of these. All right, this is the assessment. What you're going to have here is this rainbow snake. So it says this program draws a rainbow snake. To make the snake draw differently every time, you'll need to use random numbers. So what they want the snake to be doing is kind of moving. So they're asking us right now to run the program several times to see how this starter code works, and then add at least 3 new different colored circles to your rainbow snake. And you can use the random number to make the snake's body move up and down like the first 3 move. And then they're asking, can you make the size of some of the circles random too? So we'll get to that in a second. So right now I'm going to press run. Oops. And then I can see that the snake is moving. All right, so they want me to add 3 more. The way that the rainbow goes, it's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. So I'm going to make it red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. You can make the second 3 whatever colors you want. If you wanted to make them different, feel free. So I'm going to put a fill, put new lips, put a fill. I like to drag all of my blocks in first, and then I like to write my code. Just so you know, the program has this space in here. It's just to kind of make a space in between. It's really not a big deal. You could, if you wanted to, you could delete that, or you could add it in by literally putting, I guess you'd have to be in the text. So that line 8, and then if I wanted to, I could do this to just differentiate them. And then if I go back to show blocks, I can see that they're spread apart. I personally would prefer that they're together because I can then see all of my code at once. But if I'm making a crazy picture or something like that, I might prefer to have them spaced out. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. All right, so let's see what this looks like. Oh boy, all I can see is this big violet one. And that's because violet was the last thing that I made. And the violet it's set, well, they're all set to be at 200, 200. That's the position. And then they're set to be 400 wide and 400 tall. That's not going to work. If I look up at the code for the red, orange, and yellow one, I see that they are all set to be 50 by 50. I'm going to change that first. All right, so now that's a little bit more like it, but they're all still stacked on each other. That's not going to work. So I'm going to look at the X position first. The X position, and if I show my grid, I'm going to see that this red one is at 100. So 100 is right here. So it's not going to move from this line. It's just going to move up and down because the Y is where the random number is. And then orange is at 140 and yellow is at 180. So it looks like they've all increased by 40. So I'm going to follow that pattern and I'm going to go 180, 220. 220 plus 40 is 260. 260 plus 40 is 300. All right, so now, so now I've got all of my snake pieces out in a line. But if I keep pressing reset and run, I see that only the first three are moving. Okay, now I need to get the next three to move. So they have a random number in here from 190 to 210. They don't have it moving crazy. They're keeping it, pretty tight there. So they have it moving between 190 and 210. And I'm just going to follow suit. If you have the desire to make it a little crazier or play with it, feel free. Now, if I take a look, they're all moving. If I made it bigger, like if I did 180 to 220, I'm just doing the first three. So 180 to 220 is just going to make it move a little bit more. Let's try that. See if it works all the way through. I get nervous because the difference between 180 and 220 is 40 pixels. And the snake parts are only 50 pixels apart to start with. So we want to make sure that they still look like they're still connected. You can see that this yellow one right now is really, really, really far out, but that's still possible. Ooh, I lost one. See right there, this 180 and 220, it's too big of a difference. As you can see right here, it looks like our snake got disjointed. So we wouldn't want to make it 180, 220. We'd want to probably keep it with that 190. Maybe even we could do like 185, 215. That might work out just fine. Just trying to make it look, because it has to be realistic. There, now it might be still realistic, but maybe a little bit more wild than it was. All right. Now the challenge here was to make the size of some of the circles random too. So if I were to make the size of some of these circles random, I could put in a random number for both the, I could put in a random number for the width and the height. And they were set at 50, so I can make it be maybe anywhere from 30 to 70. That might be a little bit realistic. Oh, and you can see the my red, I've only done on the red piece, so that red piece is now changing shape a little. I'm going to show you a time when it might be worth it for you to use the text. So if I press show text, I see that this random number is already in here, I could literally copy, oops, and paste it all the way through. This is a time when using the random number might be worthwhile. Or, I'm sorry, this is a time when using text would be worthwhile. There are many times that using text is going to be easier. There are also many times when showing the blocks is going to be easier. It all depends on what you're trying to do. So let's see what we have now. Ooh, look at that guy. Oh, just disjointed a little, but you see what's going on. Fun. I hope you enjoyed that. All right. In task 8, you're being asked to do one of these challenges. So choose at least one of them to do and have fun with it.